the Speakers Bank podcast. Our voices, our views.
Hi, my name is Storm Robbins and welcome to the Speakers Bank podcast for 2019. And this is my co-host Kathryn.
Hi guys.
And our two guests who are part-time social workers, who are going to be full-time social workers, Laline and Warren.
Hi.
And for 2019, things will be a bit different. We'll be having different guests for different topics. So it won't be just me, Kathryn and Nathan. So we hope you will enjoy this series of podcasting. Hi Laline, so what is the different areas of social work have you done in the past?
Same with Warren. I had my first placement in a Filipino community council. We're conducting social support group for people who are aged already or elderly people. But those people are like Filipino Australians community.
Right.
So some of them, they have a family, their family are a bit busy, and we're trying to reduce the social isolations.
And what was your favourite type of work placement in a different area?
Oh, that placement, it's like when we're doing the social support group. That's my favorite one.
Right. So Laline, can you just explain to the viewers out there, what is social work?
Social work is very broad actually. It has a lot of programs. So you can work in any field, hospitals, council. But for me, I define social work is helping people out there.
Is it more about empowering other people?
Yeah, empower them, assist them, advocate for them.
So, in simple terms, you're the voice for the people who don't know how to access different services.
Yes, something like that. So if people cannot access some health services or other services from the government, social workers, we are here to help those people to access those services. Maybe Warren can add me more.
Yeah, so basically it's very broad area, but it's generally anything to do with helping other people. So especially those who are in need, those who are very vulnerable. So just working with them with their problems, helping them cope, helping them in their everyday lives to assist them in any way possible that they need help.
And that's also with body and special needs people, correct?
Yep, so anything physical, mental, so basically any issue that they might have, social, economic, so any factor that they may have problems with. So it's a very broad area.
Sounds very, very complicated.
Yeah, it can be.
You mentioned that you are international students. How is it different for someone who is local students?
So for me and Laline, we're both international students.
Yeah.
So it's the same. We're doing the same program as with the local students, but it can be very challenging because we're entering a country from a different culture, with a different background. So they also have different standards here in Australia. So somehow we need to adapt and so put our standards up to the standards of the Australian one.
Yeah.
Can you briefly explain to us what you mean by standards? What are you talking about? Is it the actual social work field itself?
Yeah, actually for the academic standards, for the grading system, how we do reports, research, how we conduct things, especially when we interact with different people. Australia has a lot of guidelines and rules and regulations.
Yeah.
So working with children is one. Food and health hazard, OSHC, so stuff like that comes into play, especially in the placement that we're doing.
And you would have to have child checks and stuff like that as well.
So we need to do a lot of extra things to do aside from,
And because you're international, you come from a foreign country, in your course here in Australia, do they offer kind of English to help you speak a little bit?
Yeah. So for universities here in Australia, they have different programs that they offer to international students who want to learn more or how to develop their English skills before the start of the school year. So international students can come here like a few weeks before the start of the course,
Yep.
and the university offers English training. And even while the course is ongoing, they have English tutors that can help assist students who have difficulty with the English language.
Good.
So it's very helpful, especially.
So I'm going to ask Laline the same question. So what was the challenges for you coming over to Australia?
First it's like homesickness, because
Yeah.
like my family are back home. So I came here by myself, like looking for my parents to cook food for me, because I need to
Yes.
cook food by myself. I need to prepare everything. I will clean the house by myself. So when you're alone and your family is not here, the feeling it's a bit different. Studying back home and studying in a foreign country is totally different.
Yes.
You need to adjust in a high level of adjustment.
Is it more like you know how the study thing is over here better, or over there where you're from?
Oh, studying style, it's different. Like the studying pattern and style in the Philippines, way back home, it's different from here.
Right.
Yeah, so I need a lot of adjustment with that too.
I know with my mum personally, it was very, very difficult for my mum because I'm originally from Thailand myself, so having that adjustment is very, very difficult,
Yeah.
particularly when you don't have a good reading of English and writing. So
Yeah.
I definitely know how you guys feel.
Yeah, like when local people here talk, like it's hard for us to understand. Because like the
Yes.
accent, the language is different.
And the slang is very
Yeah.
difficult when you first come in.
Yeah.
What are the career pathways for you as a social worker?
Career pathways. It has a lot of career pathways. Like one career is like you can do assessments to clients. I did this also with my first placement, and like we're trying to assess clients for my aged care. Like people needs help from the government. So trying to assess them or become a case manager to assess them and help them to provide some assessment from the government. It's like sending those assessments to my aged care. So like when you're helping those people through that kind of assessment, I think it's one of the career pathway. You want to do that.
So Warren, what is your ideal career pathway?
So for me, I'm very much interested with research, research policy and legislations. So it's more on the advocacy side as well, because to have a proper change, there's a proper way to do it. So to have a bigger impact, it's very useful. It's very ideal to change the system itself to benefit the people who are in need.
And what sort of like experience or inspiration did you come up with that idea from?
I just like to read stuff. Yeah, I just like to read stuff, read books, and so it's a very interest of mine since I was young. So.
And Laline, what is your ideal career pathway?
Just like to help people.
Help people.
Yeah, that's it.
Did you get a experience from when you were a child or growing up that you wanted to be a social worker?
I saw some like helpless people in our society back home, and those like situations like triggered me to become a social worker.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are the occupational hazards in social work, Laline?
Occupational hazards. Okay, this is a bit interesting, yeah? Maybe hazard, when you're doing social work, you need to go to communities, you need to go to areas like in a tourism area, war, or different countries like people having their wars. So for me, it's a hazard for you, but like if you want to help people, you will not think about those hazards, but you are thinking about how to help those people. To remove those people in that area.
What do you find as a social worker that's going into the field that's the most difficult hazard for you, doing
Maybe accidents?
accidents?
Yeah, because like we don't know what will happen tomorrow. We don't know what will happen later. So one is accident.
One's accidents.
Yeah.
And what about you, Warren? What hazards do you find the most challenging for you?
So because social work, it's also very heavy on the mental side of health. People who take care of people who do social work, like counselors, domestic violence, suicide assist hotlines, they're very vulnerable to mental fatigue. So their mental health is very important. So yeah, so it's because they're taking the issues and concerns and they're thinking about it and they're helping solve the problem. So it takes a very big toll on their health.
It must be very confronting
Yeah.
seeing that every
Yeah.
day.
So it's not just a physical one; it's also a mental one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
As a person with disability, what roles does a social worker have in my situation?
So it's a very broad one. There's both government assistance and non-government assistance.
Mhm.
So multiple agencies and organizations have different programs that assist the people with disabilities. So there's advocacy groups to better the conditions and services that's offered with the disability, and there's also those who provide the services itself. So care workers, people who visit people with disabilities, assist in their home care needs, provide respite for carers. So different levels of types of assistance that they can provide. So financial, social, just basic needs.
Out of all the basic needs, what do you guys find is the most challenging to get from the government?
Maybe like employment.
Employment.
Like what I understand is that people having with disability, according to my research, that they're having a low employment rate.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like employment is one basic need of people with disability.
Yes, because I'll give you an example. Whenever I try to apply for a job, they will always, for some reason, make the person with a disability come second, and the
Yes.
person with a disability is more qualified than the actual able-bodied person. So that's a society issue. So with social workers, it's very, very important that they can help us change those attitudes that society has.
So there's being you guys as social workers, can people like us come to you if we're struggling to find work?
Yes.
Could you help people in our shoes find that path?
Yes, but like we need some agencies to work with,
Yeah.
and like it's not us, but with the help also with the agencies to get you hired or get employed.
Yeah.
Like in my research said that people with disability wants to work, isn't it?
Yes,
You really want
exactly,
to be employed.
exactly.
You want to do something.
There's
Yes.
a lot of us out
We don't
there,
want to rely on the pension and stuff like
Yes,
that.
that's right.
awfully anyway.
Mm.
There's a lot of us out. Everybody's individual. Some with minimal needs, like myself, whatever,
Yes.
are capable of trying to get work. But
Yeah.
we need to show that we can do this and kind of educate and show and give that chances. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So we are aware of that.
Yeah.
Like, so we are here as social workers to advocate for people with disability
Yeah.
to get one employment, the basic need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Mm.
What are the challenges in the field of social work for you, Laline?
Maybe there's a lot of challenges, but maybe with the help of the community and the society. Because like even though we advocate for one thing, but if the society will not cooperate with us, it will be hard
Right.
to advocate for something.
So I was doing some research on our topic, and I was finding the most difficult thing for social workers is to find funding for the actual things you're doing. How difficult is that for you?
It's hard I'm starting, so I think I see this as like a difficult situation in the future, but I cannot say it's difficult for now. But I can see for the past research that given a funding for people needs help, it's really hard.
Yes, it is very.
But this will be a problem for the government that
Yeah.
we need to advocate for it, and we need to campaign for it.
So in terms of like the actual funding itself,
Mhm.
do you think there's a specific area that needs more funding than the other areas? for social work?
I think every area is very important, so it must be equally funded by the government and equally helped by the different agencies and different society.
And what about you, Warren? Or what do you find the most challenging?
Yeah, so basically on the two sides. So it's the opinion of the people on different areas. So there's a negative stigma on the vulnerable people. So when we say like the homeless, racial, disability, so mental health, and all the other stuff like that, the general public usually have a negative idea or negative concept attached to those things, and they're not really that much push to help those people. So maybe changing the way people think on those things, and maybe creating a connection with them can encourage them to do something, to volunteer or to donate funds and to help improve the lives of other people who are in need. And the other side is connection to the funding as well. So in different ways, there's a government funding and usually there's private funding, but it can get very competitive because multiple organizations and agencies are competing with each other for funding, which is always limited. So it's always difficult to implement a plan. Like people are doing projects that will benefit other people who are vulnerable, but they can't implement the project, have a concrete project, if they don't have the funds to do it.
Right, and in terms of like the feedback you get from your clients, the most frustrating part would be like the funding side of it.
Usually clients don't really see that other side because usually
Right.
they're more happy that social workers are providing the services, and even though it's a simple gesture, it's a simple program, they know that somehow they're getting help, so they're very they're very thankful for those generosity. Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
What do you like the most of being a social worker?
So, as a social worker, it's mostly working with the most disadvantaged and vulnerable side of the community. So generally social workers help everyone.
Yeah.
But of course, we will be prioritizing those who are most in need.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be helping the ones who are rich, who are healthy and stuff like that. We need to help the people who are in need. So they're the ones who need food, basic needs, jobs, housing,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So they need access to these types of services to make themselves better.
Yeah.
So we're not really working on making them dependent on the services itself. We're supposed to be working to make them independent and live their lives to the fullest by themselves.
Do you have an example where you can tell the viewers out there about your favourite type of project that you did?
Well, it's a very broad area. With the previous project that we did with the elderly community, it's mostly improving their social health.
Yeah.
So making connections with other people with the same culture, same background. So making sure that they're not lonely and isolated
Yes,
in the
that's
community.
a big problem with elderly people.
Yeah. So some of them prefer to stay at home and be isolated, but that's not really healthy for them.
No.
And it's not healthy it's not healthy for the community itself, even their family. Yeah.
So, with the elderly people, I know some prefer to stay at home.
Yeah.
Do you kind of encourage them to try
Yeah.
and find activities?
Yeah, so one of the projects that they did is instead of the people coming to the community organized event, members would go to visit the elderly client. So it's a reverse process where they just visit the home and they interact at their home. So if they're more comfortable in that place, then it's better for everyone.
Yeah.
And what about you, Laline? What are your favourite things about social work?
Helping people who are in need or advocating for people who are in need, like people with disability, aged care, or like people in a family violence area. So it's a different thing, it's a different area, but like advocating for them to help them, that's my favorite part of being a social worker.
Being a social worker, I don't get how do you deal with people in a situation of violence?
Like I told you a while ago, it's the advocacy thing. With the help also of the government, with the agency, because like when you go to a family with violence, it's so hard that you just go there alone. You still have the agency and the government that backs you up. But advocating for them is a great help. Like doing a research project, campaigning, or like stopping the situation. If you see a family with violence, just stop it, call the police, call an ambulance if needed, report it to the agency, report it to the government. That's one thing of advocacy. So advocacy, it's in a different area. It's very simple, it can be very broad, and it can vary. Sometimes you can do it by yourself, you can do it with family, you can do it with groups.
In terms of projects, what are your favourites so far?
Projects, what do you mean projects?
Like actual projects that you've worked on as a social worker.
Oh, like I'm doing a research proposal project.
Interesting.
Yeah, like advocating to have employment for people with intellectual disability.
That's a very tough thing to do, but it's going to be worthwhile.
Yes, I'm hoping this proposal project will be approved.
What are your plans after when you finish your social work course?
I'll go back to my home country, have a break, and then I will apply all those social work things that I have learned here in Australia to help other people.
So we still might have you come back to Australia.
Maybe yes, if some people needed help from my back or from my country, then I'll stay there. But if I can see some help that are needed here in Australia, then I will go back here.
And what about you, Warren? What are your future plans?
Yeah, it's the same. So maybe just take a break first, maybe a few weeks off, and then just rest. And then afterwards, maybe look for work, stuff like that. So apply in different agencies and areas, and maybe do some volunteer work as well. Yeah, just helping stuff is always good.
So just before we finish this podcast, is there any questions you'd like to ask us before we wrap things up?
Did we get to answer all the questions?
Yes, I think you did very, very well.
Yep.
So how do you think about the social work profession?
I think it's
That's great.
I think it's very interesting. It's a very one-to-one type like industry. With my personal experience, it was an eye-opening experience. It was about grabbing a group of people together and making them better. And that's what I found out with my experience of social work.
I find with social work, it's actually good to learn what social work is all about, because now I've learned more about it. There are more. So now we know that if people like us needed more support, they can go to you to find and it's like a one-on-one support basically.
Yes.
So social work to me is like a support worker.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And we are very, very thankful for you guys to help us and to help us achieve our goals.
Yeah.
And to show people what you do, and now they can see this is where they can go to when they have trouble.
All right, I think that's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and
Thank you.
to the viewers, thank you, and I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. We're going. Bye bye.
Yeah.